'Cause I don't recall really crying again for a while.
Mhm.
I know they say it's healthy, and I get that, right? But thinking about ever crying, I would just thinking about it right now, 1, 2, 3 things, 3 times
That you remember your entire life?
since,
Oh,
yeah,
since then.
since that.
Okay.
And then 2020 on my retirement. I couldn't get a word out.
Usually I call this kind of like stage setting, scene setting, right? Just to get to know Roger a little bit better. So if you can just kind of start from the beginning, where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Awesome. 2 different places right
Yeah,
there,
that's
right?
why I asked 2 different questions.
Where was I born? I was born in Naples, Italy.
Okay.
Dad was Navy at the time. I'm the youngest of 3, so born in Christmas Eve, 76.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so horrible birthday as a kid growing up, right? But yeah, so grew up in Cerritos, California.
Okay.
I did take you there.
I have been
To
there.
my hometown there, or
Football star.
where I grew up,
Oh,
I
yeah.
should say. Yeah. So my sister and my mom live there now.
Okay.
So it's nice to visit home.
Yeah.
Still have that those memories, I guess, core memories, if
Mhm.
you will. So Cerritos High School. What did I do there, man?
I know you played football.
Yeah, played football, played basketball, mainly football.
Yeah.
One of my love the sport, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I would say just growing up there playing football and yeah, nothing crazy, right?
Okay.
Working at Sears.
Yeah.
Working at this other place called Home Express as well. Did that for a little bit, but yeah, I
Okay.
enjoyed my time.
All right. So when did you leave Italy? How old were you when you guys left Italy and went to Cerritos?
I want to say we left Italy. So I was born in '76. I want to say like maybe '78. I obviously I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
I have like 2 core memories in Virginia Beach because we did live there right after Italy
Mhm.
before heading back to Cerritos. Looking back, '79 I think is when we moved to Cerritos.
Okay.
Like two or three core memories at one of my one of the houses there by the high school, and then '81 is where we moved to my childhood
Gotcha.
home
Gotcha.
that I took you to.
Okay. So you did throw a little bit of extra in there versus just, hey, I was born here. I grew up here, and you were kind of giving me some descriptions, but outside of that, how would you, describe growing up or adolescent years, anything else that you would add in there?
Yeah. So again, football fan as far as I can remember. Young kid.
Brothers, sisters.
2 sisters.
Okay.
I'm the youngest. So I don't know. Some may call that the most spoiled, whatnot, but whatever.
Yeah.
To each his own. But no, I mean, obviously, I grew up and just, I think, a decent student, not a straight A student.
Yeah.
But I will say that I think my parents did split up in my 7th or 8th grade year. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
So kind of, my dad lived, I guess, down the street in like an apartment. 2 different places I remember, but he was always there to support, all the games when that I had whenever he could. So,
Yeah.
So I grew up with my family, I should say, my
Yeah.
parents, even though
They were
split.
still there, not in the same household, but they were still there supporting when they could and doing what they had to do.
Correct.
Oh, that's huge. There's tons of stories out there where it's not the case.
Yeah.
Right. Parents split up, one leaves, has no contact or no parents at all.
Correct. So I'm very blessed to
Oh,
have still
good on them.
2 parents.
Right. I mean, I don't know if co-parenting was a term in the 90s, early 80s, 90s. But that's probably, the best you could possibly get from a co-parenting perspective.
Yes.
In that time frame. So good on them. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Cerritos High School, into football, playing football. What happens after you graduate high school? Do you go to college at all? You straight in the Marine Corps?
Yeah. So I did, I tried college for a little bit, with the Cerritos College on scholarship, believe it or not, community college. It was a funny story there later, but, did an interview, whatnot, and $700, right? It helped, right?
Yeah.
$700 is something.
It's not zero.
Correct. So I did college for a little bit. Extension of high school, not for me really. Like it was one of those me and my buddy Jay, we'd have a class together, call it 1 o'clock. And if we couldn't find parking in 10 minutes, we'd text each other, be like, hey, you want to just go eat? So it's like, yeah. So we go eat lunch. And then, obviously you end up just writing it was an English writing class or something like that. Just like high school, cramming all the 10 labs,
Right.
in that last week and a half, trying to get it all done and turned in. So I would say not that great, but probably, I think it was probably January of 96 is when me and a buddy were like, let's just go to a recruiter's office and see what's going on there. Right. See what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. No commitments yet, but because school just wasn't working. So
I mean, you weren't going to school, were you?
Yeah.
Based on what you just told me.
Yeah.
You're going to eat some chow and then maybe doing some
Right.
stuff.
But I will tell you one thing though. There's my brother-in-law kind of asked me a question one time. Back in, I can't remember if I was senior or college, but he's like, yeah, I grew up loving football, loving the game. Again, just wanted to be a quarterback, receiver, something, right? As a kid, though, wanted to be a quarterback, so try to teach myself to lead and all that stuff, right? I think that's part of my process where, just trying to be the lead, trying to be in the front, right? At everything I do, set the example type deal.
For sure.
And my brother-in-law, Ryan, he's like, what if we don't go to the NFL, right? For some reason, like, I'm stuck. I know, at that time, 5'8", like 155.
Still a possibility.
Yeah. I'm like, whatever, right? Sky's the limit, right? I'm 18 years old.
Yeah.
And, but I was like, I don't know. I never thought of it.
Yeah.
Right? It was always, you go to school, you go to college, get a job. So it wasn't working for me. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I got you.
So I had to find something. And then kind of go from there. I think February 22 of 96 was when I did the, was it MEPS, Delayed Entry Program, where you initially swear in. So
was that with the friend you were talking about before?
Yeah. So quick story on that. We both sign up around the same time. We have different start dates because I wanted to finish college, finish my semester.
Hey, I wasn't going to question anything.
I was already committed to.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I went to his going away for boot camp, and he went to my going away for boot camp. A couple months later.
Yeah.
So obviously it didn't work out for him. He's obviously doing great right now, but it was funny because we have the same recruiter, and he was like, "Hey man, what's up?" So, but it was all good, right? At the end of the day,
So, you said your uncle, is that who you were talking about? About hey, you got to give up the quarterback dream? Was that your uncle?
No, my brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
At the time, it wasn't obviously my brother-in-law, but yeah. He asked me that question, and I was like, I don't know. I never thought of it.
In terms of pushing you to join the service, was that, I get that was a moment for you, but was there something else before that was kind of sparking the interest to say, hey, I want to serve my country, or it was just
like what kind of made me commit in a way? Is that the question? So, right, part of me as a kid, I guess, right, fell in love with the commercials, right? Dad was Navy, so I'd wear Navy stuff, because there's a Navy base in Long Beach that we would go to the exchange, and I would, support the Navy, right? Wear Navy shirts, Navy jackets. Didn't really understand that, the whole Department of the Navy with the Marine Corps, right? 17, 18 years old, you don't think about that. But, again, kind of that drive to be the best, fell in love with the commercials, got me as a kid. And, again, that whole, was I really going to college?
You were there.
I was there,
you were
physically, right? But I didn't really, it wasn't for me, right? Like the college route wasn't for me, so I had to do something.
Yeah.
So at 19, obviously, left in July 15th, payday of 1996, right? That's when I headed down.
So, not too dissimilar of a story. I'm not going to get into mine. This isn't about me. It's about you. But the part where, hey, you're going to college and for me, it was community college as well. And, Jen and I were going to the same, so we went to different high schools. We ended up, we're dating, and we've been dating for a couple of years. We're okay, we're going to go to the same college, try this college thing out. But it was a community college. And much like you, I don't know if I was going off and eating breakfast somewhere, but I know where I wasn't, and that was class, right? I go off and do something else. And it wasn't just keeping my attention, right? It just was like, okay, I have other options, right? You get through high school, and obviously you're doing high school, you have to do whatever else you're going to do.
Yeah.
But I just went and worked full time. And then it was like, now I got to do something else. And that's, not to get into all the details, but main story here is
similar story, right? Similar path.
Community college wasn't working out for me. I didn't get the $700, but it wasn't working out for me, and made the other decisions. So joined in 96, right?
Joined in 96, yeah.
Okay. What job did you have? Did you?
So, right, you work with your recruiter, right?
Yeah.
You kind of talk about what do you want. And, as a 18, 19-year-old, I was like, hey, look, I don't know if I'm just going to do 2 years. And I think right before that, maybe a few years before this, hey, it's like 4 years now, right? No more 2 years. Those long gone.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well then I want a job afterward, right?
Yeah.
Didn't know too much about the Marine Corps, right? So I think I went in as like, I don't remember exactly. It was utilities of some sort, right?
Okay.
Like utilities maintenance, right? Whatever that is, 1100 or something like that. Anywhere from electrical to plumbing, right? Kind of, we call it handyman type, right? Yeah. So something, right? It's a.
I don't want to discount if somebody had that.
Correct, right?
I'm
just trying to say, like, it was, in my mind, it was a tool that I can learn.
Right, trade
that I can learn to do, because in 4 years when I'm out,
that's right.
I just
apply those skills.
Yeah. I have a job, right? That's really what I was kind of going in as. Yeah. And then, went to the best boot camp, San Diego, where real Marines are made. I'll just put that right there. And like anything else, right? You do the special screening, right? Kind of all the different language tests, all that stuff. And we didn't know exactly what we were doing, but I don't remember all the details, but whatever, third phase is when you kind of get a little bit more, and then they say, hey, you have a chance to change your MOS. It's kind of the first big boy decision, right? I can't call mom.
Right.
To say, hey, what's your take on this? Can't call my dad, no one.
Yeah. It's on you.
Yeah. Do I, here's my caveat was, you got to change your job. Here's your job. Can't tell you what it is, right? You think you're going to be James Bond.
Of course.
Right. Everybody's got the same story. But one of the kickers was it changed from a 4-year enlistment to a 5-year enlistment, right?
That's a big deal.
Yeah. I'm committing an extra year to something I don't even know. Right. No idea. So I was like, just do it, right? We're here.
So, yeah.
We did whatever we had to do to change the job, and here we are.
Wow. So the job itself, you're just, kind of got lead up how you got into it, but what was the job? How would you describe the job that you were doing?
So I know our MOS changed name so many times, right?
Of course.
But for those that know, 2651 is I would say the best way that I used to describe it would be, SI communicator, right?
Okay.
So communications, right? Radios, networks, computers, from our TS angle.
On the intel side.
On the intel side, yes, supporting intel. So that's the difference really between our 06 brothers, right? The TS side.
Gotcha. And do you have that? That's what you stayed the whole time? I know some people switch here and there, but you were that the whole time?
Did that for all 24 and a half years.
Okay.
Obviously, as plank holders, we changed it to 2659. So,
right on.
Yeah.
All right. So, 24 and a half years is that's a big number.
Yeah.
It kind of jumps out at you. Plenty of people that do 2 enlistments and get out, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. My son did the same.
Correct.
Did the same thing. But
all valuable.
Absolutely.
1%, right?
Yeah. It is. No, you're right. But so in 24 and a half years, you're moving a bunch, you're seeing a bunch, starting a family, having kids, going through all these different phases of life. So in those 24 years, I already know that you were not in the United States the entire time, right? There were some deployments that were kind of mixed in there, just
Sure.
the nature of the time frame,
Sure.
right? So, and I know it's a big ask, but within the time frame while you were in service, deployment, not deployment, are there certain things that stick out for you? They could be, significant events, they can be time frames, they can be anything like that. When you think about your service, what kind of rises to the surface?
There's a couple things. What's funny is, on my ride up here, I was listening to one of my Audible books, and it was President Bush's story. And I was actually getting motivated, right? Listening to some of the stuff that he actually had to do. So obviously the 9/11 piece, right?
Yeah.
Because before that, I came in 96, and first 4 or 5 years, the best thing to do was MEU, right?
Yeah.
That was like, you get on a MEU.
Yeah,
right?
you're the shit.
Yeah, Marine Expeditionary, and you get to see the world, right? That was the deployments to look out for, or try to get on. And I was lucky enough to get on one. Our crew was awesome. Sean Nakow actually being one of them, right? We were on that, and a couple other guys, obviously. And that was 99, 2000. That was technically first deployment, if you will.
Yeah.
Second duty station was let's back up. First duty station was Iwakuni, Japan.
Okay.
Met one of my mentors, Mike Hawkins, right? I think, yeah, you and I have
we got a connection there.
We got a connection there with Mike, WM there.
Yeah.
And then went to Radio Battalion, because he's the one that said, hey, you gotta get to Radio Battalion, right? That's where you got to do stuff, right? And the MEUs, that's where he kind of grew that knowledge for me.
Right.
And so, I went to Radio Battalion. I got to do the MEU, and we were just do exercises for years. And then obviously 9/11 happened, and world changed, right? I was actually going to school too for a little bit, and my last class ended September 14th, and then never went back to college since, right? I tried, but never went back since. So op tempo obviously skyrocketed from there. So, but it's great, right? I mean, that's our Super Bowl, right? And I say, we don't pray for war. And you used to joke around that I pray for war. Obviously, being older, I don't pray for war anymore. It's
once
horrible.
You see it, it's not what you ask for.
Correct. But as a young hard charger, right, that's what you want. And in a way, I still see that, because that's our Super Bowl. It's the best way to explain it to civilians. When we train, we're training to do our job, and that's our job.
Right. Not in the United States.
Correct. Our job saves lives. So that was kind of, I guess, second deployment there. So I did the MEU to Oki.
So let me pause you for a second.
Sure.
Okay. So a little bit to unpack there. So Iwakuni, first duty station, then you go off to Radio Battalion, and obviously I have knowledge of Radio Battalion just because we're in the same community, and Radio Battalion's changed in terms of locations.
Sure.
So the one you went to first was where and what location? Hawaii. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So first Radio Battalion, Hawaii, the real first Radio Battalion, some would say.
Debatable.
Yeah. And then actually, before I left first Radio Battalion, again, however you want to put it, but we deployed as first Radio Battalion to Kuwait, Iraq in 2003, and then came back later in 2003, thank God. And then I was actually there when we what's the term, unfurled third Radio Battalion, right?
Okay.
So we closed down first Radio Battalion officially, and unfurled the colors of third Radio Battalion
back in Hawaii.
Back in Hawaii. So that was kind of a, being part of that, right? History for that unit.
The lineage of that, for sure.
Yeah. So third Radio Battalion, obviously, the birth was November of 2003, and what was it, 21 years now?
Right.
And then where did I go after that? I went to Kenia, which was across the island.
Right. So back up just a little bit.
I know there's a lot.
There is a lot, right? Because we hit September 11th very briefly.
Yeah.
For a second. So I want to go back to that for a moment, because for folks that are, I don't want to say age, but generation that were either teenagers, whether in service or not, right? It's an event that they remember specifically. You could be 13, 14, 15, whatever. But for us, we were already in uniform at this point when it went down. So I'm always interested in what the September 11th look like for you.
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. So September 11th to me, I'll just kind of, in my mind, what was I doing?
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually doing, that first 2 weeks of tan belt training, right?
Okay.
That was brand new, right? The NICMAT program. And I can't remember what day, September, like day of the week. But I was living in off base at the time, kind of house sitting for a buddy. And everybody knew where I was at. And, being in Hawaii, we're 6 hours behind. Everything happens on the East Coast. Right. And so woke up at like 05, kind of just got ready, got dressed, and the house was only like a mile away from base. Get on the entrance to the freeway technically, and it's like not moving, turn on the radio and you're hearing everything, right? What's going on, what had happened already on the East Coast. And so, we're 6 hours behind, just catching up. And, to travel that mile or half mile from the freeway entrance technically to the front gate where H3 ended, hour and a half maybe. And, calling Mark at that time, like, hey man, like,
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, obviously I can hear what's going on. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I can't get on base, kind of just checking in, chain of command type deal. I was like, they're like, hey, just turn back around when you can and, call back tomorrow and we'll have a better plan, right? Because there's chaos, right? They're searching every car, the whole world had turned upside down, right? From the, U.S. perspective, right? So it was just, yeah. So I finally got back home like an hour and a half, 2 hours later, turned on the TV and seeing it was just surreal. I was like, is this really happening? But at that point, I think the next day, they gave us like blocks of time, right? If you're radio battalion by unit, you had to come in, try to control the thing. But that, they were still doing 100% vehicle checks, right? So it still took. I can't remember how long.
For a while.
For a little while. So it was never back to normal, right? From our standpoint of, because before, if you just had a sticker during peak times, you're right in. No ID card checks, nothing. But yeah, so it was, just op tempo just went crazy. So we would go to the field constantly as a battalion, just get ready to go. And even training in that field, we had a CO relieved in the middle of our field X. So again, unheard of. I just remember there was, we were doing some training. We sent out all the teams, all the SSTs, the LAVs, everybody left. And then the OPSO calls me and goes, hey, Sergeant E, we got to call everybody back. I said, sir, we just pushed out all the teams. Like, get them back. I was like, all right, cool. So I tell my guys, get on the radio, everybody's on comms, right? We just did comm checks. So they're like, hey, swing back, right? So everybody comes back. And that was actually, it was pretty funny because that was the first time I called the battalion to attention, right? One platoon, but battalion, field X there out at, Bellows, I think it's, I can't remember the name of the base right now, but our training area.
Yeah.
And, did it, pass off to the OPSO, go to the back of the platoon, and we see Mark 4 Pack G2 or G2 Alpha. I can't remember if he was the Alpha. I think it was Alpha. It was Lieutenant Colonel. It's Lieutenant Colonel Aycock. Like, this is it. We're going to war. He was like, as of 1500 today, that's 1500 today. I'm your new battalion commander. We're like, what?
Holy shit. What just happened?
What just happened? And Sergeant Major Williams is your new Sergeant Major.
That's literally the sergeant major too.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole
Yeah,
story.
sweep. Yeah.
And I'm not going to talk
No,
about
that's
that.
fine. Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy, right? So it's kind of one of those things where we even had a battalion, CO, Sergeant Major change just prior to heading out, right?
Mm.
I think that was around November timeframe.
Yeah. So September 11th, right? So before that, we were talking, hey, my really only opportunity to do anything or see anything is the MEU.
Correct.
Depending upon where you're at
Yep.
in the world and all those things. So September 11th happens. Mentally, though, some type of switch, some type of shift in terms of, oh, now I got to be prepared because shit can really happen. Like, what was that part like for you?
For me, no, because like, man, we all know, friend, Psycho, taught me a lot of radio stuff, right? And would always just push me to learn. And I was just, when I got to Radio Battalion, I wanted to, right? Mike Hawkins was like, you got to get on Trojan Spirit, you got to learn this, learn this. And when I got there, I got put in the comm center. I was like, right? They're like, oh, we're starting this new cycle, 8-month cycle. We're going to put you in the comm center. It means you're first out, right? Trying to, hype me up.
Of course. Yeah, whatever.
Like, I can't do this, right?
Yeah.
So, but, I'm a firm believer too. Everything happens for a reason. And so anyway, I'm doing my 8 months in the comm center. But when I get off on mids, so mids are, working the night shift, basically. I can't remember. I think we did 8 to 8. So a couple days that I would work 8 to 8, 8 at night to 8 a.m. As soon as I get off, I go to our comm ops bay and just learn what we call the CGS Lite, right? I don't know if you remember that. And CGS is like the first laptop.
CGS 300 or something like that.
Yeah, or that was the bigger one.
Yeah.
And the laptop version was still like a 5-ton chalk block.
Got it.
And I would learn radios for the old Prick. Worked on Prick 77s first, but just 119s.
Yeah.
The initial Singars. So I would learn all that, and we'd do eyes closed, set it up antennas and all that stuff. And yeah, because I was like, look, I'm trying to get out there, I'm trying to learn, so trying to make a name.
So you want to get picked, right? Like,
I'm like, I want to go out on a MEU, right? Right. We're going back to 97 here at this point, 98, and I just want to learn. I just want to get out there. And so I'm taking the time to do this. And everybody knows who I am. Different company, too, at the time.
Sure.
And Charlie Company versus H&S Company, where I was coming from. So, yeah, that was just my attitude. Right? I wanted to learn.
So it was a work mentality shift more than anything.
Correct. A lot of people, right, get off the mid and just go home.
Right.
Go sleep. You're supposed to sleep because you got to work in 12 hours. No, I worked 6-7 hours of just learning with those guys, as long as they were doing stuff.
Sure. So I know you got on to a MEU. So you think it was because of that work ethic?
I think so, yeah, right. I got my, so I got to know a lot of the older staff and COs, right? If I say Dennis Singleton, Penny Benton, all those guys, right? They would teach me, even though they were staff and COs and I was just, corporal or something, right? I think it was just that work ethic. And then at one point, I got on the MEU and I wanted to get on 15th, right? 15th was the Westpac MEU, right? 2-2 was the, those are the two like premier MEUs.
Also debatable.
From what I've heard, right?
Just like MCRD, just like specific radio battalion. Yeah, I got you. You're good.
At the end of the day, there was a time, right? Again, everything happens for a reason, so I try not to like regret things or whatever, but I did have a choice to, because I was supposed to go on 15th MEU. Then I remember I got tagged for 31st MEU. I was like, oh man, like, because 31st was like, it's the weakest one, right? But it was like, 6 month versus a 12-month MEU for us. Because being out of Hawaii, even though we use 6 months, you got to go to Cali for 6 months. Right? So it ended up being a year-long MEU, where 31st there was an A and a B, right? So it was constantly going. And the two before me had actually gone out, East Timor, stuff like that, right? So At the time, I want to say this was 90, probably summer of 99.
Mm-hmm.
And I had met who's now my wife, Mary, in February of 99. And the reason why that comes up is because it was like, oh, hey, you know what? Guam is where she's from.
Mm.
And 31st Mu kind of goes to Guam periodically. Like, ooh.
Just think you were going to take her with you? Like,
No. But we do stuff there.
Okay, got it.
Right? We exercise over there at Guam. And a little shorter, right? You know, young love at that time.
Mm-hmm.
A little shorter. You know, wasn't going to be gone for a full year at that point. And so one of the staff officers, I think it was Master Sergeant Singleton, he was like, hey, you're right. We did promise you 15th Mu, but I'll let you pick. Which one do you want? I was like, oh. I was like, can I get a day? Right?
Day of return or day of leaving?
A day to think.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
A corporal talking to a Master Sergeant, right? I said, hey, man. Like, I didn't say, hey, man. Hey, Master Sergeant. You know, I thought I was supposed to go on 15th Mu, right? But the manifest has me on 31st Mu, you know, and then 3, right? When everybody's name's on the magnet and we just move it. And they're like, yeah, you're right. We did promise you 15th Mu. And so I said, can I get a day, right? And he's like, yeah, of course. And so I was calling Mary. I was like, what do I do? You know, what should I do? Again, everything happens for a reason. Yeah. But I did enjoy my Mu. My Mu actually ended up being an all-star team, pretty much. I chalked it up as the world was safe because we did the Okinawa 500, so it wasn't that great as far as seeing the world.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end, I was able to go see Misawa as well. We did a couple things out there that way, take advantage of our training opportunities. Right.
Yeah.
That's what we always teach on ranges. There's no downtime, just training opportunities.
Now, there's going to be people that watch this that don't know what 15th and 31st is, and you don't have to explain it, but
no,
you didn't say which one you ended up on.
I did. Well, it pseudo did because I said Okinawa.
Again, depending on who's watching this, they have no clue, potentially. So
all good.
31st.
31st Mu.
31st Mu.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
The old Mu SOC.
Yeah.
There's still SOC called. Special Operations Capable.
Yes, got it. So come back from that. This is pre 9/11 at this point.
Pre 9/11. So this was, but it was Y2K. That's a whole
another the
beast.
world's going to end.
That's a whole. totally forgot about Y2K testing. But yeah, that's when everybody thought computers were going to go down hard. Yeah. And we were in Guam at the time of Y2K. And I wanted to call my mom and like mess with her, like, take all the money out of
your bank
accounts.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pandemonium. It's chaos. You know, but
save yourself.
Yeah, but I didn't. So at the end of the day, so the world was safe.
Yeah,
we come back in June of 2000-ish, I think, somewhere around there. So we had about a year and some change before 9/11.
Okay.
So more exercises.
Yeah, exactly. More prep, right?
Yeah.
So 9/11 occurs. The next big thing for you is battalion deployment.
Battalion deployment.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what time frame was that?
I left January of 2003. Right?
Okay.
That was when there was still hush. I know we had originally sent a small crew in November. And then we went out there. I went to an advanced party in January, and we went to the port of Kuwait.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the, I would say, one of the fulfilling events, in the Marine Corps. I will tell you. So, right, I know I grew up as a SCI comms guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I still like to do plain Marine stuff, right? Or it's just, you're young. So I was a Staff NCO Staff Sergeant Select.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, hey, I want you to be the Staff NCO. And so I went with the Chief Officer. It was the LASC. And you got a lot of the Motor T guys with me, right? I had a 5-ton license. That was the thing. You get a 5-ton license. So I need you to go out there. I was like, all right, whatever, right? I enjoy that stuff.
Yeah.
So I had all the Motor T guys, which I love those guys, and I got a lot of the restriction bubbas, right? Because not a restriction when you're in another country,
Right.
and you know, we go to Cali, probably I think a dead of 10 of us, and 5 tons were just coming out, right? Like no, 7 tons. I'm sorry, 7 tons were just coming out. And so since we were all Motor T, well, most of them obviously,
right.
We went to 1MEF attached to them, and just got a quick class on the 7 ton because it was all push buttons like the Cadillac of tactical vehicles there. And we picked up 11th Marines, bunch of Marines, corporals and below.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a sergeant, Staff Sergeant Select. I had one sergeant with me from the battalion, and then we picked up another sergeant from this is Grunt. So there's 3 of us sergeants. The rest were corporals and below. Probably about 40 Marines. So we go out together to Kuwait, 2 different planes, but we meet up at the end of the day, and we start running convoys. We're offloading MPF ships, right? Maritime Prepositioning Force ships. I had sent Marines to the port to offload those, and then I took the rest, and we ran convoys for about 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
Non-stop, I'm assuming.
Non-stop, right. Watching the Super Bowl on a small TV at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know. But, man, every day we went out, there was something. Something happened. But we got to the point where I loved it was, even though I had some of the misfits, if you will, we had a good training plan where, you know, we'd pick up our convoy. What do we got? Okay, we got these many vehicles. Okay, got it. We give our convoy brief, say where we're going. We have all the basic maps, and then we'd head out. But whenever we stop, because again, something happened every single time, and I could say 1 or 2 stories there. But my Marines would know where to go. Post, you know, if we're near a bridge, 2 would go to the high area, you know, and look both ways, just perimeter security, right? Whenever, so we can assess the situation. I always got to drive the nice civilian Pajero, right? Because I'm the convoy commander, running it, you know, testing everything.
We use the term nice loosely, but yes, nicer than ever.
I had music, right?
That's nice.
I had music. And then I had the phone, and I would just call in our checkpoints, right? So totally not part of our MOS, but loved it because it was just, you know, they entrusted me to take this team out. You know, obviously, thank God I didn't lose anybody. But there was stuff happening, right? People were getting rolled up. I think they rolled up on a couple contractors as well. You know, we get these reports and stuff, and it's like, all right, brief my guys, like, just be ready. A couple of them get scared, right? And I get it. I'm like, you know, stand down, right? Like, there's one guy following us one time, and you know, we stick out, and they were like, why is he following us? You know, getting scared. I was like, calm down, you know, don't. They're trying to point their weapons at him. Like, stop. I said, I got a 50 cal in front, so I had comms with 50. I'm like, hey, 50, can you point that thing, because this car is just following us, right? And he's like, points to 50. It wasn't gonna shoot, but just kind of a warning, right?
Show of force.
Yeah, and then they took off. But a couple other times, busted a tire. We had to replace a tire. You know, tires like this big. I don't know, 16 lug tire on a Dragon wagon. Yeah, that was awesome, right? One of my guys jackknifed. You know, 7 ton and
while carrying a load.
Yeah, we're on the freeway. I get a call like, "Hey, you got a jackknife." I'm like, "What?" Pull over, and sure enough, you know. And so we're right off base. So I make the call to pull off one of my security vehicles and to wait with that vehicle because we got pushed, man. We called it in. It's like, "Yep, we'll send a wrecker." So wrecker came in and pulled it out, and we kept going. Yeah, a couple times. Going with the Army was tough. They had their rules. We had our rules. Teaching those guys, the ones that just came in country, how to run. A couple of those guys fell asleep, you know, so we're like, no lights.
Everybody's got to, I had this guy fall asleep on deployment.
Yeah, no lights. So I'm like positioning him in between, or you stay awake, a driver, stay awake, you know, stuff like that. So again, just out of the MOS, but loved it because the freedom and just the trust.
And where were you guys going back and forth to specifically?
We were delivering these, whatever, tanks,
Sure.
bridges, trucks to units spread throughout Kuwait, right, that are pre-positioned in different places. Most of the grunts, right? Like, hey, this is, fresh gear.
Resupply of something. Yeah.
I wouldn't call it brand new, right?
Right.
But fresh cark.
Brand new for them.
Fresh cark, right? Looks brand new. So,
Cark is paint, by the way.
Yes, cark is paint. So, yeah, it was kind of cool, right? Kind of a good feeling there.
Yeah. So when you come back from that 6 weeks, so how long when did you start doing that? So you come in the country and then you immediately
came
go
in the country,
that?
started doing that.
Okay.
Right? We're running convoys, 6, 7 weeks, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And then at that time, we're like, all right, I think we did, like I said, 11 of the 19 or 19. We did a ton of ships.
Yeah.
Because again, it was every day for 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And then it was like, okay, our time to head up to commando to meet up with battalion. I think battalion started getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're doing comm checks and prepping our vehicles for the teams that are going out. And I think I could talk about a couple things that happened.
Yeah.
So, radio battalion, I was already in country. And, the nature of our job, Hawaii, radio battalion was in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of hard, right? Everybody's in West Coast or East Coast. Hawaii is kind of offset, even though we fell under kind of both, right? Oki and 1MEF. And I think they were just trying to get on ASR to get in the country. And they had Russian planes that were like, hey, they're huge. Have you seen those guys? Those Russian planes, right? Like 30 wheels or something like that. But anyways, for some reason, our gear got thumbs up for Russian planes. And
somebody okayed it.
Yeah. Someone didn't have a job after that.
Yeah.
So I'm in country. I meet up with Radio China. And I hear about this, and I'm like radio chief / EKMS manager, whatnot. They're like, what did you, I was like, hello? I was,
wasn't here.
I was at the port running convoys for the last 6, 7 weeks. We're who approved this? So back and forth, we get on the horn, back to the fort, and Russ is like, I'm going to fly there with KGs for you tomorrow. I was like, where's that? We end up meeting Russ at BIAP. First time meeting him at the time.
And you said Fort Meade.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And they bring in the new 175s, I think they were. And we swap them out. Because they had a list. They're like, change this. So they came out. We met them, we got it. Redistribute to the team. Do your comms checks, make sure it's good, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, get word from the team, like, hey, it's not working. We kind of look it all up, trying to read the screens and stuff. And I guess their coalition was slightly different. I'm like, hey, Russ, wrong ones, bro.
Got a problem.
I'll be there in 2 days. Meet him back at BIAP 2 days later. It was awesome because he, obviously who he is and what level he's gone up to. He's grown obviously now, but 2003, I met him twice. In 1 week.
Yeah.
We're swapping KGs in the middle of, or not BIAP, sorry, Kuwait airport.
Been there many times.
Yeah, so it was pretty funny. And they work, and then, March 19th, then push happens, right?
Right. So March 19th happens. Like, what was the feeling at that point, right? Everybody's getting geared up. Everybody's getting, I would use the word excited, but what was the overall?
You're getting excited because you don't, but you don't know, right? I will say, we got pizza, right? Pizza on the 18th.
As like a send-off.
Right? It's like, oh, well, you know what that means, right?
Right.
When you get pizza, some of y'all ain't coming back.
Right.
And so even I can't remember the general's name right now. 1MEF at the time.
Convoy.
General Convoy takes us all a couple days before. It was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
His road to war brief to us, to the MEF. He was like, as the 1MEF commander, he goes, we'll take you in. 53 comes by right over the square. Then the 46 flies by right over the square. He goes, I don't think we had Ospreys at the time, but he's like, yeah, and you'll have support. And then Cobra flies by, Harrier flies by. Everybody's getting motivated. It was kind of cool. But yeah, all that stuff is like, man, some of these guys, we're not coming back, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, right? That's we all signed up for it. But you kind of get antsy. I will say that we were delivering some like last minute stuff to our units. Mm-hmm. Convoy 2 and Seersucker came in the Camp Commando, right? Mm. And I think it came out 100 meters or so past, right outside the front gate. And radio battalion, we were in 2 sections, about 1.5 miles apart. And where our battalion is, all the S shops. The angle, the skiff was here, mm-hmm. and there was like a mushroom cloud there. This is what they were saying. I wasn't there. I was kind of driving back. Mm-hmm. And we just heard on the radio we got hit. And so, I can't remember who it was. The first time I was like, I think they're all dead, right? Like, what? So we're like, oh, man, what's going on? We got attacked, right? So we're out and trying to make it back.
Right.
2-vehicle convoy, and we're all looking at each other like, gas up, right? Gas up, because there's convoys were doing this. Right? Yeah. Oh, shit, right? So let's gas up. Looking at each other, and we're driving. We get the all clear right outside the gate. We're like, oh, okay, everybody's fine. His angle looked like he thought the skiff blew up. Wow. The skiff blew up, right? Unknown, right?
Yeah, no, of course.
And that's his lens, and I'm not trying to clown him, right? Yeah. Obviously, I can laugh, 20 years later
on the outcome.
Yeah, but we were all like, what's going on? Just make sure, all revert back to training. Keep checking on your buddy. Make sure he's okay.
Control what's in front of you, what's around you.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of odd, but you're like, all right, we're rolling, right? We're going. So, we sent out our teams, and mm-hmm. Obviously on TV, what they show is just the shock and awe.
Yeah.
We were nowhere near that.
Right.
But
now the teams that you were sending out coming back same day, just same day stuff.
They were
out for a while.
They were attached to the units,
so,
right? To the grunt units, right? So, in that time it was speed, right? Mm-hmm. Fastest to Baghdad at the end of the day, right? You got to keep going. And great stories from those guys, because we had comms with them all the time. And I know you're going to talk to Adam. I just remember getting a report one day from Adam. Hopefully he remembers this, but I'm back at the rear with the battalion and running that comm shop, whatnot. And I can't remember what team he was on, mm-hmm. But we all obviously had the call signs, and it was pretty cool because I got to build that CEY for the battalion. So it was kind of
that's a big deal.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
As a sergeant's take to that sergeant. But
which, just to make sure everybody's tracking, right? Operating instructions, communication wise, that everybody's going to be using. Right? It's the large comm plan plus exactly. Yeah, I just want to make sure folks understand the significance
comm plan
of that. Yeah.
Primary, tertiary, secondary, whole 9 yards, right? No comms plan, everything, right? The big booklet that we create. And I remember it was on a Pisky 5. I think his kind of broke, but we've been training so much. And I tell this story because it's real life, right?
Yeah.
It happens, right? And because Adam knew where to go, the screen on his Pisky 5 was out, but the repetition mm-hmm. of turning it off, turning it back on, getting it back up.
Just button memory.
Buttonology.
Button
memory.
pattern memory.
Muscle memory. He's like, call sign. I can't remember call signs, but he'd call in and we're like, awesome. Hey, good to go. And he would say, like, my screen's like broke. Oh, like, hey, Adam, that's awesome. Well, obviously, I'm not calling him Adam
Yeah,
at the time,
yeah.
but we're saying, it's good stuff. And I remember, I think it was him. It was him or Mike Air. I can't remember who. One was like, I was like, you reporting snow? Like, actual snow? It is snowing, and and I was just like, man, it's awesome, right? It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So, because we get to talk to our buddies, right? It was what we've been training for.
Yeah.
For months or years, really. That was pretty cool.
So at this point, when are you coming back from that deployment? That was like March, April-ish.
That was March.
Timeframe.
Yeah, April. And I wanted to go out so many times with those guys, but the S6 wouldn't let me go, man.
Yeah.
He's like, you're our EKS, man.
I was good. Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, kicking and screaming, I couldn't go. But I think we got the call to come back in September.
Okay.
And being the only unit in Hawaii, it was pretty cool. Hawaiian Airlines sent a plane just for us. Yeah. So
to where? Where
to
did you fly?
Kuwait.
To Kuwait. Okay.
They picked us up. And we got there, and I can send you some pictures too. And we're flying back, and we land on K-Bay, Hawaiian Airlines, on K-Bay. It was pretty cool.
So 2003, you come back. What was life coming back, kind of reintegrating into? I don't want to say normal, but
Yeah, right.
Things were different.
Yeah,
you've seen different shit.
And first thing, it's funny, it comes to mind, and I'm pretty sure every Marine knows this. Everybody's in green camis. It just looks weird.
Right.
So
what's wrong with you?
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing. But no, it wasn't too bad, right? Again, I like to compartmentalize things, and so that's Iraq, Kuwait, whatever. It's done. We're home. Let's just get on going. So fairly easy transition. There's obviously some things I would say, I don't know, not PTSD, but whatever,
Right.
Maybe a small form of PTSD,
Yeah.
right? Little things, any noise, couldn't sleep for a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Right, those scud alarms, right? Alarm clock would, what is that? What is that?
Right.
That lasted for a little bit. That's the only thing I can remember that would I took back.
Right.
It took me a little bit to transition, right? That was just the 03. Any other deployments after that, I don't think I really took back anything like that, right? It's probably just complacency, which complacency kills.
Complacency does kill. Yeah.
I'll tell you about one thing later on that one. But
that's not an uncommon thing, right?
No, I don't think so either.
In terms of, and I don't mean uncommon to minimalize
Sure
what you're saying.
Sure.
But the compartmentalization of thoughts, feelings, trying to say, hey, this is not Iraq. This is not Afghanistan. This is Hawaii.
Correct.
You walk around, everybody's happy, everybody's having a great time.
Yeah.
But as humans,
mm-hmm.
right, I don't think it's, I don't believe it's as easy as people like to think that it is, right? You're
correct.
Because you have to mentally prepare yourself.
Correct.
To go do whatever. You don't know what you're getting into when you leave. And it's like, okay, I get on the plane. 18 hours later, I'm back home and I'm on American soil. And all of a sudden, I'm safe. Like when I've had these conversations, and not just like in this interview format, right? Talk to brothers,
Sure.
Throughout the years that I've gone through a lot of different things. It's hard, man. I mean, it's just from an environment perspective.
It is.
And, I get you say, hey, this is one of the deployments where I at least felt like I had a decent adjustment period of sleep patterns or anything along those
mm-hmm.
lines. It's, again, not trying to I don't want to minimalize that.
Correct.
I know you made it sound easy. In terms of you talking through it, but the sleeping part, right? Because that was one of the things that stood out for you.
Yeah.
2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months? How long do you think you had to take to do that adjustment?
Where I can sleep through the night,
Yeah.
I would say about a month at best.
Okay.
Um, I don't recall too
Yeah.
much, right? 20-some years ago now. Hard to believe, right? At 24 years, yeah. So, yeah, I don't recall too much. I would say my best guess would be about a month.
Right.
Um,
And something you just figure out on your own. You just
yeah,
you
you
just
just
work
kind of.
through it, and it is what it is.
I'm home, right? I'm home.
Yeah.
I'm not in any
Danger.
danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
At
that
this point, what was your relationship with Mary? Were you guys married at this point, or you guys were still
03?
dating?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We got married in 03. So, she's awesome. I will tell you. So, as we're winding down,
Mm-hmm.
comms are still decent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Out there, email, whatnot. Right. I'll just back up one story and, whatever. September 12th, like that was not a great day, but America, right, was together.
Yeah.
Right. When I say December 8th, 1941,
Right.
September
Summer.
12th, 2001. Complete night and day to what it is now, obviously, but not to go into politics or anything, but yeah, right. Everybody was
United.
united.
Yeah.
So after the war,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of, even Disney got on the patriotic bandwagon, if you will. It was like, hey, I don't know, buy one, get one free or something, right?
There were free tickets being passed around.
Yeah, basically, right? Take advantage of that, right? And,
Yeah.
I'm not really one of those, like, is it Veterans Day, you get the free meals, right? Being in Virginia Beach, man, it's like, it's almost impossible to even get something because there's so many.
Everybody's taking
which is great.
Right.
I get you. I'm glad they recognize it, but very rare,
Yeah.
right? Very rare do I ask for any type of military discount, right? It's just one of those things. I was like, let's take advantage of this right now, right? They love America, or America loves, service members.
Right.
So I was like, hey, told Mary, I think we were already engaged at the time. I said, hey, let's go to Disney, right? Like, let's check it out. Let's take advantage of this time. And I think it was her mom was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? You guys ain't married? Old school, right? Old school.
Yeah.
Like,
you hold hands over there?
Yeah.
No, Ma.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's funny. So she's like, all right, well, I guess we'll get married first then. Because we're already, again, we're engaged, but we don't have a date. We don't have a date set.
Yeah.
So she actually, works. She's working at TGI Fridays in Guam. And just earns money, right? Tips, right? Japanese tip pretty well over there. Because they learn about our culture, right? In Japan, if you tip, it's bad, right? That means they were bad services the way they take it, right? So they don't expect tips.
Interesting.
So when Americans tip, it's like a slap in the face, right? The culture. But when they come to the U.S., they get taught, right? Our U.S. customs. So they end up tipping pretty good. But anyway, she did an awesome job and earned some money and actually paid for our wedding. So our first wedding, I say first wedding because it's, justice of peace, whatnot.
That counts.
Yeah. It's
legally,
legal wedding, but not church wedding, right? We're big Catholic, so, it's not real in the eyes of God, right? So we did that legally, 2003, August 16th. And then a year later, can't be August 16th, but it was like August 15th or something, right? Same type of Saturday. We did our church wedding in California.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so I don't know where I was going with this. I can't remember. 2003. Oh, what happened after that? So yeah, we got married in August in Guam, 2003.
I'd like to go back a little bit to when you came home. Obviously, Mary's dealing with you being gone, whatever that looks like.
So
right?
she was not. Again, remember when I came home, I had nobody. on the welcome home.
Right. Right.
Right.
Physically.
Correct.
Right.
So she was in Guam.
Mm-hmm.
She'd already graduated,
Mm-hmm.
and so she was kind of, what's next, right? So she was back home in Guam, and I would say, we talked about all the other deployments, whatnot, and how did she take it? I guess she would, I guess two separate things, right? Because we had
Mm-hmm.
kids on the previous one, and the first two weren't really married yet,
Right.
But same concept, though. I think she gets in her routine, right? Gets in her battle rhythm, if you will, and just kind of she did her thing, right? Just like we all do. We all adjust to where we're at
Mm-hmm.
and come up with a battle rhythm to not think about those things, right? Because you're going to stay in the game, stay focused on your mission. So
Right.
same thing with her, right? At the end of the day, the second deployments, I know we're fast forwarding, but that's her. The kids were her mission. Try to keep them going, learning,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So same thing. I think the first two times as well.
And how often, obviously technology changed throughout the deployment, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
How often were you guys communicating? What was normal for you guys?
Pretty decent amount, right? So being like the sixth chief, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, have access to certain things too, right? Obviously email and all that stuff, but when you go River City, no one has access. But there's things called groups.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a program called OPSEC, right? It's ran by the G3, whatnot. And it's Purple Dragon if you ever take that class. Well, being kind of like jack of all trades, master of many, as one of the one of the things I got out of radio battalion, because I used to teach, EKMS manager, and teach everybody whatever I could, and brief every deck going out. But anyways, kind of, oh shoot, lost my train of thought. Technical transmission, Mary. We're talking about
You're talking about comms, being able to talk to Mary.
Oh yeah, comms. Sorry. Okay, so when I was at Intel Battalion,
Mm-hmm.
I would have to manage these groups. And being an Intel Battalion, we had certain users that needed stuff because when they call River City, shut down Nipper, certain groups would still have access, right, for Intel purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So they call those power users. And in order for me to op check what the CO is a power user and certain, not our whole unit, but certain
Key
MOSs in our our unit has that. Well, someone has to be able to test that. So who's the guy? Right.
You're the test power
I'm
user.
the test guy. So I have access to comms usually. That's the best thing about being, running the show when it comes to that stuff.
Use it to your benefit.
Use it to my benefit. I try not to abuse it, but if I had to call Mary, I would.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I try not to call her, we'd have a battle rhythm of email at least, every day, because pictures and stuff, that's great. All right, communication nowadays is great. Or even 2003 was okay. But anyways, so we take advantage of the DSN lines as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, being deployed many times, I have access to certain numbers. And
sure.
And being Hawaii 808, it's easy. I don't have to use a calling card.
Right. So you obviously had chances and opportunities to talk to Mary throughout these deployments.
Yeah.
In terms of kids, right? So how many did you go on deployment after the kids were born?
Yeah, so kids were born in 05 and 07. Mm-hmm. My next two deployments, last ones actually, was 07 and 09. So I will say that was hard, obviously, because Jacob was like 2, I think, and Mary was 8 months pregnant or something.
Hard for you or hard for her, or both?
Both, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, right? Both. So being pregnant with a toddler, right? Mm-hmm. But we're in Cali, so obviously We had some family there an hour away, but they helped out when they could. And I do remember, like 07, I would do we would do other missions, I guess, right outside the wire, if you will, from a comm intel perspective. And I'm not going to go into those details, but I'd be gone periodically, and I'm like, hey, just so you know, we'll call you for a little bit, but and she didn't want to know, right? Which is good because I wasn't going to tell her anyways.
Right.
But some of the pictures she would see, I'd send back. She's like, well, what are you wearing? Where are you at?
Yeah.
Because we'd just be out at the Iraqi police stations, whatnot. And, can't trust everybody.
Right.
So stay vigilant, whatnot. And but I obviously came back home safe. But there's one night I was just like, I think instead of feeling, Tiana was being born. It was kind of cool. Because I was out on a mission, but it was in Ramadi, just kind of looking up at the moon type deal, right? Like, I know it's cliche, but it was like, it's the same moon, right? And that whole deal, but just something was in the air differently. So it was kind of cool. And then I think I got back and obviously checked my email and whatnot and got it. And then CO announced on the daily evening brief, he's like, just want to, tell Gunnery, he's a new father again or whatever, second baby.
That's awesome.
Born last night. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Or 2 nights ago. Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's awesome.
So your intuition was right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was that same night, that night in Iraq, morning in the Cali, whatnot. So
wow. Have you shared that story with Tiana?
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, because also her last name is Convoy, which is early morning sun or something like that. I can't remember anymore. My Hawaiian's it's been a minute. You got to turn in my Kama'aina card because I haven't lived there since 2007, I think. Or no, when did I leave? 2006.
Wow. How long after she was born until you came home from that deployment?
She was 4 months old, I think. So I think came home in October. So she was born June 1st.
Yeah.
So yeah, got home and I got to hold her, pierce her ears. So that was kind of cool, right? So that kind of, adjusting for those 2 deployments was, I think a little bit easier, right? Because my main focus was just on the kids.
As a father,
point, right? Obviously, yeah, and adjusting with the wife is obviously a little bit different because they got their battle rhythm going, and I'm messing up the rhythm because kids need.
I mean, it's 2 different types of relationships, right? Husband, father, yeah.
Yeah, so that obviously that's like any family, right? You got to adjust, and it's hard, but I don't know how long it took to get used to, but at the end of the day, everything worked out great.
Yeah. So was that your last deployment?
09 was my last deployment.
Okay.
Yeah. So kids were in 4 and 2, I think, somewhere around there.
So going on that deployment, kids are a little bit older. They're still obviously young. Different feeling leaving on that one as,
Yeah, a little bit harder, I guess, because now they're like, they don't know what they're saying. Mary's like, say bye to daddy, but they don't comprehend it.
Yeah.
But obviously as a parent, yeah, it's hard.
Is that a vivid memory for you from that one?
The 09 deployment, yeah, unfortunately not as vivid. I look back at some pictures, right? So that's what comes to mind are those pictures that I see that I can remember. So
yeah,
I just remember it was harder.
Yeah. When I was at division, 1st Marine Division, so this was 2010 time frame.
Okay.
Early 2010, we were getting ready to go to Afghanistan, and one of our mutual friends, Angel, had a large part in this moment and memory in my life, which is why I was asking about the vividness and the clarity of leaving them. So we're all lined up. We're kind of over 33 area, waiting to leave, and Angel's there, and he's basically his mission is to take my family back home after you get on the bus and you're driving to March Air Force Base, and you're gonna fly, you're gonna leave.
Yeah, and they can't go there. Families can't go to March.
Correct. So, saying goodbye to Jen, saying goodbye to Gabby and Ryan, who were younger at the time. I remember I had a Ford Explorer, and they get in the vehicle, say goodbyes, hugs and kisses. And I remember my little one at the time, Gabby, just back window was rolled down just enough, and she's looking at me. She's got tears in her eyes, and I was strong. Like in the moment, I was strong, right? Angel's taking everybody back home. So I go from there and I go into the little PX or whatever you want to call it at the time, 7-day store.
Yeah.
And our mass sergeant comes up. I was a gunny at the time. Mass sergeant comes up and he puts his arm around me. I'm just like looking at whatever. And he's like, "You all right?" I was like, "I was." Until you asked me. I was like, "Now that you asked me, no." And I just lost it, right?
Yeah.
Lost it in that moment. And he's consoling me, right?
Sure.
You get it, right? And you just get it in that moment. But talk about a memory that's etched.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to say the other ones weren't important when I went through that.
Sure.
But that one just stands out as a thing, just a thing for me.
I mean, I remember the bus ride, right, to March, right, which is long, or Miramar, I can't remember. We left out of both before. And, you just have that minute, and you're like, okay, well, they're gone, right? And so, I guess I do heavy breathing for a minute, I guess. I don't know. But it was one of those, and then I just kind of snapped out.
Kind of mind shift a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Focus. I don't know.
Yeah.
People call me a machine, I guess, sometimes. Man, we didn't talk about this, but, I would say, like, I don't have a lot of emotion anymore.
Mm-hmm. Why?
I think it's when my dad died, 97.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of was like, even though my parents had split years before, I did cry. Obviously, it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of was like, all right, kind of, man in the house type deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no, even though they were separated or divorced at the time, but it was just like, that's it, right? Dad's gone. It's you. And I was already in the Marine Corps at the time. So I don't know if I can pinpoint it. I never saw a doctor to say that was it, right? But that's just my guess.
Is that a cultural norm?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't recall really crying again for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I know they say it's healthy, and I get that, right? But thinking about ever crying, I would just thinking about it right now, 1, 2, 3 things, 3 times.
That you remember your entire life? Oh, since that.
Since that.
Okay.
And then 2020 on my retirement. I couldn't get a word out.
Mm-hmm.
When it was my turn, right? We did the whole ceremony piece, and then you get a chance to talk, right? I know I wish you could have made it too. But yeah, I couldn't get a word out for like 3 or 4 minutes, and that's a long time.
Yeah,
just
it's a lot of pause.
Everybody's watching.
That's a lot of pause.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I say this in that no one's got proof because it was in the secure area, but I used to tell my kids, right, only babies and girls cry.
Which one were you in that moment?
Right.
Yeah.
So like I said, I that's just me analyzing, right? Use my 29 skills.
Yeah.
For a second there, but yeah.
So I don't need you to unravel the 3 times that you remember getting upset or crying or showing emotion, but based upon the nature of us being Marines, we talked about obviously deployments, and we talked about a few other things, but that for you professionally culminating in retiring from the Marine Corps, you just said you couldn't speak for 3 or 4 minutes.
Correct.
What got you to that out of not
Just a
doing
big
anything?
transition, right? I mean, what you lived and breathed for 24 years is over, right? I'm not a master gunnery sergeant anymore. Right. Like when my young Marines, I call my young Marines, even though they don't really mind, but my FSRs, they're like my Marines, right? They're all 51s, and every now and then they'll be like, "Hey, Master Guns," right? Brings you back, right? Sure. It's just cool to hear periodically, even though we don't wear it anymore. It's just one of those things, right? That, right, it's a part of you, right? Part of your life. So, that part's gone, right? And you miss it, right? I love the Marines, love training Marines, love working with them, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's over, right? So that lifestyle's over.
Had you thought about it like that before that moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hit you, right? Until it's there.
Yeah.
Talking to Angel one time, right? I remember texting him and you when I was sitting at the parking lot at Marford Com, just logging in on my phone real quick. It's official, right? Approved.
Proof of retirement.
Yeah, approved. Transferred to the FMCR.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hit me, right? Like, oh, this is it, right? And I send that to you guys, and Angel's comment was,
"Can't wait.
Can't wait."
So all those lines.
Fast forward,
yeah,
to his, right, when we're having a conversation in Virginia, he's like, I said that? It sounds like me.
Yeah.
But
it was different.
It hit him.
Yeah.
It hit him too.
Yeah,
so
it was different.
Right. At the end of the day, it hits us all, I think. That that part of your life is over.
Yeah. And huge part. I mean, I like to talk when I talk to folks, I'll either say, hey, that season of my life or that chapter of my life. I mean, that's like multiple seasons, multiple chapters, multiple movies, whatever you want to call it.
It's crazy.
It's a long time.
It's almost quarter century, man.
Back to the math stuff. Yes, it is almost a quarter century. I remember walking in to get my DD-214. So
that's another story.
I was at Fort Meade, and again, getting out, looking forward to whatever's going to be next. Thinking I have an idea. Go into the admin shop, the S1, whatever at the time, IPAC, whatever. Hey, Master Guns, here to help you out. We got everything already ready to fill out for you. I'm like, all right, awesome. Come over there, some corporal. And he's like, all right, got to sign here. Got to do this. I just stared at him. And he even looked at me. He's like, Master Guns.
Daily job.
Nothing. Yeah, it was nothing.
Daily job. Yeah.
Just another transaction.
Correct.
Another transaction. And it wasn't 3 or 4 minutes. I didn't really sit there in silence. I was mumbling something, but it was a good 30 uncomfortable seconds probably for him.
You just space out and
I did. I just spaced out, and I wasn't going chronologically through my career in that moment. But it did hit me pretty hard at that point. Obviously, I didn't. Well, I would say obviously, but I didn't break down. Right? I'm like, think about it for a second, take a deep breath, and I just said, "This is it." Like I verbalized that, and he looked at me, and he was like, "It is, Master Guns." I was like,
right,
wow.
He's gonna carry on.
Thanks, Corporal Thomas.
Yeah.
Right? And then that was it. And I walk out, get in my car, and waterworks.
No, I remember you telling me this story.
Waterworks.
Yeah, dude.
And no doubt for all the same reasons, right? I mean, I didn't obviously do 24 and a half because I'm a quitter. I only did 22, but no doubt the feeling was 99% the same for the same reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's tough. My DD-214 story, walking into the admin office and like, hey, here, pick up my DD-214. I'm like, here you go. read through it, Master Guns, make sure it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, make one change, and I was like, well, I got an award right here, right? My end of tour. Obviously, you guys didn't
know about it.
Yeah, or you knew about it, but you
Sure.
didn't put 2 and 2.
Yeah.
He's like, they were just dumbfounded for a second. But Chief Warren was like, yep, got it. We'll fix it. Fixes it. He's like, is it good? I was like, yep, everything looks good. Signed, 2 or 3 copies. I can't remember. But the Chief officer's gone, and then it's just a female corporal, I think, and then like a GS, a civilian. Same thing, right? And they're like, another transaction for this guy, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is it, right? Like, you're telling me, like, once I sign this, this is it. This is my DD-214. They're like, Master Guns? Yes. You're good. I was like, you don't understand. I was like, let me just, like,
Pause
soak it in for a minute.
Yeah, pause for a second.
I was like, I'm getting chills, right? And the corporal's like, at first she was kind of confused, but she's like,
do your thing.
Yeah, she understood. She's like, hey, Master Guns, take your time. I was like, there's no one else here, right? I'm like, where's my buddies, right? This is it. And nothing. And you're just like, man, I'm signing. I'm, this is it. I'm done. Official, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that point. And I think this was, I can't remember if it was before the ceremony or after, right? Because I know I had to adjust the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
It was COVID times. But yeah, they're like, take your time. I signed it. And then they're like, they reached out, right? COVID.
Yeah.
They even reached out. I was like, yeah, I'll shake your hand.
Yeah.
It's like, Corporal, you have a great day. Sir, you have a great day. It's just like, yeah.
Off into the sunset.
But I didn't cry at the end though,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know, right? That's why I can't remember if it was before or after the ceremony anymore. But yeah, ceremony is when I said I didn't bawl, but it was just I couldn't get a word out, man. Right. It was the quivering lip.
I mean, that was
and all that stuff,
equivalent of you bawling.
I guess it would be. It would be,
right?
Because the last time I remember bawling was when my dad died.
Yeah,
right? That's the last time I
let it out.
Ugly face, right?
Yeah,
the ugly face cry is what Mary likes to call it. So yeah, it's I would say it's a big part of your life, right?
Yeah.
More than half, right? I'm not 50 yet, so
yeah. So there's a lot of things that I hope people pull out of this channel, right? Coquille Connect and all the things that we do with bringing guests on, having these conversations. And every guest has a different conversation because every guest has a different story. So it's going to be different for everybody. I like people to kind of be able to take away something, from somebody's story, whether it's learn something, put it in their tool bag and do whatever and think, okay, hey, I never thought about that before. Or I never, whatever the case may be, give them a helpful thing. So 24 and a half years in the Marine Corps, you've seen a lot of different things, right? Loss, grief, unfortunately, suicide, all these varying things that pile in there. In terms of how you've seen people navigate through those tragedies or through those events and, kind of come to the other side, is there certain things that kind of stand out to you for how people were working through those challenges that you remember?
So, I guess when we were at Radio Battalion together a few years back, right, we had, I think, 2 suicides almost within the same week, if I'm not mistaken. And, the first one was when we had kind of a battalion formation in the middle of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, it wasn't the first or anything like that. You saw the chaplain, you saw the MCCS ladies or whatever. If you didn't know, obviously we kind of knew what was going on beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was rough right on the Marines. And we talked to the Marines, how to handle this and, obviously work here, utilize all the resources that they have available in the Marine Corps, MCCS, whatnot. And that happened again, I think, later that week. Mm-hmm. And you knew that one because it was just like the same people.
Right.
And, watching the Marines go through that, it was tough, man. Because what do you tell them, right?
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
in all the training that we go through, I would say I've lost many Marines to suicide, but like, how do you say it? It's the hard thing, right? It's really more your peers, but then your peers start feeling bad because they're like, I should have done this, I should have done
Right.
that.
The
What
guilt.
could I have done better?
Yeah, the guilt.
Yeah, the guilt, right? And even on our side, when younger, whatnot, it's all our peers, and it's hard because sometimes I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But we're always there, right? At the end of the day, we're always available. But yeah,
I mean, it's talked about.
it's talked about,
It's definitely talked about.
right?
Right. So
All those signs, the cliche signs, they start giving stuff away. Don't care. I get that, but
Mhm.
sometimes they don't show that.
right.
Then what?
Yeah.
So that's a question, why, that obviously we'll never know
Mhm.
until we see them later. But yeah, it's just it's hard, man. I
Yeah.
don't know how to.
Yeah. No, and there is no perfect way to characterize.
No,
it.
there isn't.
Again, just like we just talked about with people's stories being different, it's the same thing for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's got different issues, trauma, that things that they're dealing with that is just too heavy, and they choose that route or whatever the case may be. So with that, right, and you're talking about things that you've seen when you're at one of your units in terms of the suicide, right, loss, grief, everything that's kind of going on there, and then the Marines around you trying to process that and trying to get through that. So, one of the things I love to ask, as we kind of wrap this up, is there are, I'll undersell it no matter what number I use, whether I say tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, whatever, of people out there that are struggling, right, for various reasons.
Yeah.
Uniform, non-uniform, doesn't matter, civilian, doesn't matter, that have different thoughts of, I can't ask for help, or I don't want to ask for help. I'm too scared. I'm too nervous. I'm embarrassed. Any one of those reasons to not do it. What would you say to people, seeing what you've seen, what would be your message to those folks that are on the fence of looking for help?
I would say that over the years, my mind has changed on like suicide. Again, I used to say, or I tell people, or you, whatever, a pretty strong mind, right? Compartmentalized. Every morning I wake up, I'm happy, right? Because it's a new day. That's my mindset, the way I think, and that's what gets me through each day. I used to think, again, from my old lens, I don't know why people do it, right? Obviously, they have their reasons, but it's like it couldn't comprehend. Like, so I didn't really believe in it in a way. I don't know if that's the right term, but obviously, as I got older and understood it from different lenses, right, different angles, however you want to say it, I feel for them, right? I've changed 180, whatnot, from 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So what would I tell them? I would tell them, hey, we're here, right? Everybody's here for you.
Right.
There's many different avenues, please just take advantage of it. Try it, right? Because people, I know they don't feel loved or whatever, but they are, right? And that's the one message is, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, we're here.
Yeah.
Anybody. I mean, and with our crew, we'll call the Wolf Pack, right? We're here to help. Staffing Seals, whatever, anybody really, right? I know that's just our group, and that's what we're trying to, cater to right now, because we relate age-wise and all that stuff.
It's a community.
Yeah, community.
It's a community. I mean, that's the community aspect is, I've heard some people call tribe. You can call it whatever you want.
Correct. But Brotherhood. It's family.
It's a community of folks, right? Stick together.
Same trauma, same
trauma, right?
Yeah.
You can be open, you can be vulnerable, and you can chat about these things. I don't think that's talked about enough, to be honest with you. And you get people that say, hey, you should chat with somebody, which is great advice. You chat with anybody, right? Depending upon what's going on. But a community of people that have been through similar situations, that have, walk down similar paths.
Yeah. Understand everything that you're going through.
Right. You don't feel, as embarrassed, you don't feel as, I don't like using this word in this context, but you don't feel as crazy
Yeah.
for having certain feelings and having certain thoughts. So I love that you said that, right? I love that you put that on the back end of your comment and statement about the group that we share. And that same group came up in the conversation I had with Sam in episode 1, because it's a big part of our lives.
I look forward to that every year because we always learn from each other, and we lift each other up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's some fun jokes, obviously, and that comes with it, and I love that. But at the end of the day, the bottom line, for those weekends is growth for us, right? Make sure that we're still alive, still working together, working hard, and just lifting each other up at the end of the day, right? That's the point of it.
Yeah. So find your community.
Find your community.
Find your community, whatever that looks like in that. So
that should be your catchphrase, bro.
Find your community. Find your. I don't have a catchphrase yet. Yeah,
you got to find it.
Yeah, we'll see. So, man, I've known you for a long time,
but not that long, honestly. Right? When we look back at our careers,
that's true.
And it's
crazy from a year counting perspective. Okay, I have this thing where I'll talk about experiences versus experience in my other day-to-day work and day-to-day job, right? You can have experience, which is a length of time, right? It's kind of how you put in your resume. I have a resume, I have my experience for 4 years doing this, versus experiences, which stand out, and they're different, right?
Same word, different meaning.
Completely different meaning.
Yeah.
So I think what you and I share in deeper wise is the experiences, which makes it feel deeper and longer than the length of time of the experience, right? That's
good angle, I should say.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. But
because we met when I was at Intel Battalion, but I was busy, and like I said, I know I remember meeting you in the office there, right? Because I knew Angel, knew Brian, but we didn't really know each other, and we never really crossed paths. Really, we were both checking in. I think we were both in Alphas, right? In the bay.
In the radio bay, yeah.
And you come up, you're like, hey, buddy. I was like, what's up, man? And then ever since that, right?
Yeah.
And again, I know some of our Marines during that 2015, 2018 radio battalion, they made the comment, you're always together, right? 99% of the time, you guys are always together. And they don't know that was only been.
That's still when it started.
That's where it started.
Yeah, that's where it started, which is crazy.
Crazy.
Which is crazy. So,
and we've opened up a business together.
We have opened up business together.
To what is it, 2025?
Right. So 10 years.
Almost 10 years.
Right. Coming up on our anniversary. I don't know what the 10-year thing is, but I'm expecting a gift.
We gotta look it up. I think it's not pearl.
Porcelain or something.
Porcelain, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
But right, I mean, 10 years is not a long time, but again, in your experience versus experiences, it's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah, no, it's a lot, man. You're a huge part of my life.
As are you, man. As are you.
You just are. So, you support me in my endeavors of the idea last May of, hey, I need you to read this idea that I got sitting at the campsite
and
about
here we are.
Cook, Heal, Connect. Yeah. So your willingness to come on here, right? Talk about your story, break bread, share a meal together. I know cooking is a passion that both you and I share. Obviously they make us cook at the campsite every year, but I love it. We quietly enjoy it. Exactly. And for you to come to my house and break bread with me, and from Italy to Cerritos to the 31st MEU to Iraq
to our weekly game or yearly games.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Of course.
I'm looking forward to more experiences.
I love that. I'm using that.
All right, you can use it. Love you, bro.
Love you.
Great, man.
Yeah. It was awesome.